The gavel cracked down like a rifle shot. "Remove that medal, or you will be held in contempt of this court." Emma Blake didn't flinch. She sat in the back row of courtroom 6 at Redwood County Superior Court in Harbor City, her hands folded in her lap, her posture calm. The medal pinned to her navy cardigan caught the overhead fluorescent light, a small bronze star on faded ribbon, worn and scratched. Around her, the courtroom buzzed with impatience. Lawyers shuffled papers. A bailiff yawned. The judge, Ronald Pemberton, glared down from the bench like a man who'd never been questioned in his life. Emma met his eyes. "It's authorized, Your Honor." Her voice was quiet, steady, not defiant, just factual. The room went still. Pemberton's face darkened. He leaned forward, knuckles white against the oak surface. "Authorized? By who? Some online costume shop?" A few snickers rippled through the gallery. Emma didn't smile, didn't argue. She just sat there, that metal gleaming on her chest, and something in the air shifted, something cold, something dangerous. Because the woman they were mocking wasn't nobody. She was a ghost, and ghosts don't forgive. If you want to see how far this story has traveled, drop a comment with the city you're watching from. Like and subscribe, because what happens next will flip everything you think you know about power, justice, and the quiet people no one sees coming. The morning had started like any other. Emma Blake woke at 5:30 in her small apartment on the east side of Harbor City, brewed black coffee, and pulled on her scrubs. She worked the day shift at Mercy Grove Medical Center, a public hospital where the waiting room smelled like disinfectant and desperation. She'd been a nurse there for 11 years. Nobody knew much about her. She didn't talk about herself. She showed up, did her job, and went home. That was the way she liked it. But today was different. Today, she wasn't going to the hospital. She was going to court. The reason sat folded in her jacket pocket, a single sheet of paper, creased from being opened and read too many times. A summons. Not for her. For someone else. Lucas Reyes. She'd met him 3 months ago in the ER. He'd come in with a dislocated shoulder, shaking so hard the triage nurse thought he was seizing. Emma had been the one to calm him down, to sit with him in the corner of the trauma bay while the doctors worked. He didn't say much, just stared at the wall, breathing through his teeth. But she recognized the look. She'd seen it before. On faces covered in dust and blood, in the back of transport trucks, in field hospitals where the screaming never stopped. Lucas was a veteran. Army. 3 tours. Honorable discharge. And now he was back in Harbor City, living in a studio above a laundromat, working part-time at a hardware store, trying to hold it together. He wasn't holding it together. 2 weeks ago, he'd been arrested. Assault. The details were murky. Something about a fight outside a bar, a man with a broken nose, witnesses who said Lucas had snapped without warning. No weapon. Just fists. The victim was pressing charges. Lucas couldn't afford bail. He'd been sitting in county lockup ever since. Emma had visited him twice. Both times he'd refused to look at her. "I don't need your help," he'd said through the plexiglass. "I know," she'd replied. She came anyway. Now she was sitting in the back row of a courtroom that smelled like old wood and stale air, waiting for his case to be called. The room was half empty. A few lawyers in cheap suits, a clerk typing into a laptop, a bailiff who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Judge Pemberton sat above them all, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, flipping through a stack of files with the bored efficiency of a man who'd seen 1,000 cases just like this one. Emma watched him, studied him. He was the kind of man who wore his authority like a uniform. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Every word landed with weight. Every gesture commanded attention. People feared him. Emma didn't. The clerk called the case. The People versus Lucas Reyes. Assault in the 2nd degree. A side door opened. Lucas shuffled in, hands cuffed in front of him, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his frame. He'd lost weight. His hair was too long. His eyes were hollow. He didn't look at Emma. The prosecutor, a young woman with a sharp bob and sharper heels, stood and rattled off the charges. "Your Honor, the defendant is accused of unprovoked assault on the night of March 14th. The victim, Mr. Colin Driscoll, sustained a fractured nose and multiple contusions. We have witness statements placing the defendant at the scene. We're requesting bail be set at $50,000. Pemberton barely looked up. "Does the defendant have counsel?" A public defender stood, middle-aged, rumpled, already defeated. "Yes, Your Honor, we'd like to request a lower bail amount. My client is a veteran with no prior record. He's not a flight risk." "Not a flight risk?" The prosecutor's voice was ice. "He attacked a civilian in a public place. He's unstable. He has PTSD," the public defender shot back. He needs treatment, not incarceration. Pemberton raised a hand. Silence fell. I've read the file, he said. His voice was flat, dismissive. The defendant has a history of erratic behavior. He's unemployed. No permanent address. No ties to the community. He looked at Lucas like he was looking at a stain. Bail is set at $75,000. Next case. Emma's hands tightened in her lap. The public defender sputtered. Your Honor, that's... Next case. Lucas didn't react. He just stood there staring at nothing, while the bailiff moved to take him back. Emma stood. Every head in the room turned. She walked down the center aisle, her footsteps soft on the worn carpet. She didn't rush, didn't make a scene. She just moved forward, steady and deliberate, until she reached the low wooden rail that separated the gallery from the court. Your Honor, she said. Pemberton's eyes snapped to her. Excuse me? I'd like to post bail for Mr. Reyes. The room went silent. The prosecutor blinked. The public defender looked confused. Lucas, halfway to the door, stopped. Pemberton leaned back in his chair. And who are you? Emma Blake. I'm a registered nurse at Mercy Grove Medical Center. Are you related to the defendant? No, Your Honor. Then what is your interest in this case? Emma met his gaze. I know him. I know what he's been through, and I know he's not dangerous. Pemberton's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. You know him. How touching. He flipped a page in the file, not bothering to look at her. Bail is $75,000, Ms. Blake. Do you have that kind of money? I can arrange it. Can you? He said it like a statement, not a question. And what makes you think this man won't disappear the moment he's released? Because I'll make sure he doesn't. You'll make sure. Pemberton set the file down, folding his hands. Tell me, Ms. Blake, are you a social worker? A therapist? A probation officer? No, Your Honor. Then what exactly qualifies you to make guarantees about a man with a documented history of violence? Emma didn't rise to the bait. She kept her voice level. I know what combat does to people. I know what it looks like when someone's struggling, and I know Lucas Reyes isn't the person you're describing. Pemberton's eyes narrowed. Combat. Are you a veteran, Ms. Blake? Yes, Your Honor. What branch? Army. Medical Corps. Rank? Captain. For the first time, Pemberton paused. He studied her, really looked at her. The plain cardigan, the tired face, the hands that had seen too much work, and then his gaze dropped to her chest, to the medal. His expression changed. What, he said slowly, is that? Emma glanced down. A service medal, Your Honor. I can see that. Why are you wearing it in my courtroom? It's authorized under federal law. Veterans are permitted to wear, I know the law. Pemberton's voice sharpened. What I want to know is why you think it's appropriate to walk into a court of law wearing military decorations like you're at a parade. Emma didn't answer right away. She just looked at him. Not angry, not defensive, just waiting. I wasn't aware it was inappropriate, she said finally. It's disrespectful. To who? The question landed like a slap. Pemberton's face flushed. To this court, to the legal process, to... He stopped himself, jaw working. Remove it. Now. Emma didn't move. Your Honor, the public defender said carefully, she's within her rights. I don't care about her rights. Pemberton's voice rose. This is my courtroom, and I will not have someone turning a legal proceeding into a publicity stunt. I'm not... Remove the medal, or I will hold you in contempt. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably. The clerk stopped typing. Lucas, still standing by the door, stared at Emma with wide eyes. Emma's hand moved to the medal. Her fingers brushed the worn bronze. And then she lowered her hand. No, she said quietly. Pemberton went very still. What did you just say? I said no, Your Honor. This medal was issued by the Department of Defense. It's a record of service, and I have every right to wear it. You have the right, Pemberton said, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous, to follow the rules of this court, and if you refuse, you will be removed. Emma didn't blink. Then remove me. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Pemberton looked at the bailiff. Officer, escort this woman out of my courtroom. The bailiff hesitated. Your Honor, I don't think... Now. The bailiff started forward, and then the double doors at the back of the courtroom opened. Heavy footsteps echoed through the silence. Everyone turned. A man walked in. He was tall, broad-shouldered, mid-50s, with close-cropped gray hair and a uniform so crisp it could cut glass. Army dress blues, rows of ribbons on his chest, stars on his shoulders. A brigadier general. He walked down the aisle like he owned the building. Behind him, 2 MPs in full dress followed, stone-faced and silent. Pemberton stared. What is the meaning of... The general stopped in front of the bench. He didn't salute, didn't introduce himself. He just looked at Pemberton with the kind of gaze that had commanded soldiers in war zones. "Your Honor," he said, his voice low and steady, "I'm here on behalf of Captain Emma Blake." Pemberton's mouth opened, closed. The general glanced at Emma. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, respect, something deeper. Then he turned back to Pemberton. "The medal she's wearing," he said, "is the Bronze Star with Valor. It was awarded for actions above and beyond the call of duty in a combat zone. She earned it by carrying 3 wounded soldiers through enemy fire while under direct attack. She took shrapnel in her shoulder and kept moving. She didn't stop until every one of those men was safe." The courtroom was silent. "One of those men," the general continued, "was Private Lucas Reyes." Lucas made a sound, half gasp, half sob. The general's eyes never left Pemberton. "So when you tell Captain Blake to remove that medal, Your Honor, you're not just disrespecting her. You're disrespecting every soldier she saved, every life she risked hers for, every drop of blood she shed in the service of this country." Pemberton's face had gone white. "And if you think," the general said, his voice dropping to something lethal, "that this courtroom has more authority than the sacrifices made on a battlefield, then you don't understand what authority is." No one breathed. The prosecutor looked like she wanted to disappear. The public defender's mouth hung open. The bailiff had stopped moving entirely. Emma stood perfectly still, her face unreadable. Pemberton cleared his throat. Once. Twice. I wasn't aware of the circumstances." The general didn't respond. "Captain Blake," Pemberton said, his voice unsteady, "I apologize. The medal is authorized." Emma inclined her head. Once. No words. The general turned to Lucas. "Private Reyes, look at me." Lucas raised his head, eyes red, face wet. "You're not alone," the general said. "You never were." Lucas broke. He collapsed to his knees, hands still cuffed, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The general looked at Pemberton. "I assume," he said, "that bail will be reconsidered." Pemberton swallowed. "Bail is reduced to personal recognizance. The defendant is released into Captain Blake's custody." The bailiff moved immediately, unlocking the cuffs. Lucas stood on shaking legs. He looked at Emma. She stepped forward and caught him as he stumbled. "I've got you," she said softly. He buried his face in her shoulder and wept. The general nodded once to Emma. Then he turned and walked out, the MPs following in perfect step. The doors closed behind them. For a long moment, no one in the courtroom moved. Then the clerk hit a key on her laptop, and the sound broke the spell. Pemberton looked down at his files. His hands were trembling. "Court is adjourned," he said hoarsely. Emma helped Lucas toward the door. He could barely walk. She held him steady, one arm around his shoulders, guiding him step by step. As they passed the prosecutor, the woman looked away. As they passed the public defender, he whispered, "Thank you." Emma didn't acknowledge either of them. She just kept moving. Outside, the courthouse steps were crowded with people, lawyers, clerks, reporters covering other cases. Emma guided Lucas to a bench in the shade and sat him down. He was still shaking. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I didn't know you. It doesn't matter." "It does." He looked at her, eyes raw. "You saved my life, twice." Emma shook her head. "I did my job." "You did more than that." His voice broke. "I didn't even remember. I didn't... Lucas." She put a hand on his shoulder. "You were hurt. You're still hurt. But you're here. And that's what matters." He wiped his face with his sleeve. "What happens now?" "Now we get you help. Real help. Not a cell. Not a courtroom. Treatment." "I can't afford..." "You don't have to. The VA has programs. I know people. We'll figure it out." Lucas stared at her. "Why are you doing this?" Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Because I don't leave people behind." The words hung in the air. Lucas nodded slowly. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. Emma stood. "Come on, let's get you out of here." They walked down the courthouse steps together, past the crowd, past the cameras, past the noise. No one noticed them. Just a middle-aged nurse and a broken veteran disappearing into the city. But inside that courtroom, something had shifted. The prosecutor went back to her office and pulled the case file. She read it again, slowly. And for the first time, she started asking questions. The public defender made a phone call, then another. By the end of the day, he'd filed 3 motions, and Judge Ronald Pemberton sat alone in his chambers, staring at the wall, replaying the moment when a quiet woman had refused to move and a general had walked in and stripped him of every ounce of power he thought he had. He'd spent 20 years on the bench. He'd never apologized to anyone. Until today. He didn't know it yet, but that apology was just the beginning. Because Emma Blake wasn't finished. She'd come to save one man. But what she'd started was going to tear the whole system apart. 3 days later, the first news story broke. It wasn't about Emma. It wasn't about Lucas. It was about Colin Driscoll, the man Lucas had supposedly attacked. A reporter at the Harbor City Ledger, a young woman named Maya Torres, had been in the courtroom that day. She'd seen the whole thing. The medal. The general. The moment Pemberton had cracked, and she'd started digging. What she found was a name. Colin Driscoll. 26 years old. No priors. Clean record. Son of Brendan Driscoll. City councilman, 3rd District, 15 years in office. Connections in every corner of Harbor City's political machine. Maya dug deeper. She found the police report. She found the witness statements. She found security footage from the bar where the fight had happened. And she found something that didn't add up. The footage showed Colin Driscoll shoving Lucas first, shouting in his face, chest bumping him, aggressive, drunk. Lucas had backed away, hands up, trying to leave. Colin had followed, grabbed his shoulder, spun him around, and Lucas had reacted. One punch, reflex, muscle memory. Colin had gone down hard, but it wasn't unprovoked. It was self-defense. Maya called the prosecutor's office, left 3 messages, no callback. She called the police department, got transferred 4 times, no comment. She called Brendan Driscoll's office. The line went dead. Maya sat at her desk, staring at her notes, and made a decision. She published the story anyway. Veteran arrested after self-defense incident. Son of city councilman involved. It went live at 6 a.m. By noon, it had 10,000 shares. By evening, it was on every local news channel. And by midnight, Brendan Driscoll's phone was ringing off the hook. He didn't answer. He was too busy calling in favors. But the story wouldn't die, because Emma Blake had set something in motion. And once the truth started moving, nothing could stop it. Brendan Driscoll made his first call at 1:15 in the morning. The man who answered, Arthur Grimshaw, chief of police, sounded groggy and irritated until he heard the councilman's voice. Then the irritation vanished, replaced by the kind of careful politeness people use when they know they're talking to someone who can end their career. Brendan, it's late. I need the Reyes case buried. Silence on the other end. Then, we can't. It's already out there. That reporter, I don't care about the reporter. I care about making this go away. Grimshaw sighed. The footage is public record now. People are asking questions. If we try to suppress it, it'll look worse. Then make it look like something else. Say the footage was edited. Say the witnesses were confused. I don't care how you do it, Arthur. Just do it. Another pause, longer this time. I'll see what I can do. The line went dead. Brendan sat in his home office, the glow of his computer screen casting shadows across his face. He'd been reading the article for the 3rd time, each pass making his jaw tighter. Maya Torres. He made a mental note of the name. Young, ambitious, stupid. She didn't understand how Harbor City worked. You didn't go after people like him, not if you wanted to keep your job. Not if you wanted to keep breathing easy. He picked up the phone again. This time he called his lawyer. We're suing, he said the moment the man answered. Defamation. That veteran and everyone connected to him. I want them destroyed. The lawyer, a man named Richard Voss, who'd spent 30 years defending the indefensible, didn't sound surprised. On what grounds? He assaulted my son, unprovoked. The footage doesn't tell the whole story. Brendan, the footage shows Colin shoving him first. My son was defending himself. From what? From a mentally unstable veteran with a history of violence. Voss was quiet. Then, this is going to get messy. I don't care. I want them crushed. What about the nurse? The one with the medal? Brendan's lip curled. Especially her. She's making this into some kind of hero story. I want her credibility shredded. Dig into her past. Find something. Everyone has something. And if there's nothing, then make something up. Voss exhaled slowly. I'll get started. Brendan hung up and leaned back in his chair. Outside, the city was dark and quiet. He'd built his career in this town. 15 years of favors, backroom deals, carefully placed bribes. He wasn't about to let some nobody nurse and a broken soldier tear it down. He reached for his phone one more time. This call went to a man who didn't have a listed number, a man who specialized in problems that needed to disappear. "It's me," Brendan said. "I need you to handle something." The man on the other end didn't ask questions. He just listened, and when Brendan finished talking, the man said, "Consider it done." Brendan smiled. He had no idea that Emma Blake had already seen this coming. The next morning, Emma stood in the kitchen of her apartment pouring coffee into a chipped mug. The early light filtered through the window, pale and cold. She hadn't slept much. She rarely did anymore. Her phone buzzed on the counter, a text from Lucas. "You see the news?" She had. She'd been up since 4, reading every article, every comment thread, every furious response from people who didn't know the whole story and didn't care to learn it. She typed back, "Yeah, stay off social media, don't talk to reporters." A pause. Then, "People are saying things about you." Emma set the phone down. She didn't need to read the comments to know what they were saying. Stolen valor, fake hero, attention seeker. It didn't matter. She'd heard worse. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. Unknown number. She answered. "Blake? Captain Blake, this is Maya Torres. I'm a reporter with the Harbor City Ledger. I'm the one who wrote the article about Lucas Reyes." Emma didn't respond. "I wanted to reach out because I think there's more to this story. I think the Driscolls are trying to bury it, and I think you might be able to help me stop them." "I'm not interested in being part of a story." "I understand. But this isn't just about you. It's about Lucas. It's about every veteran who gets chewed up by a system that doesn't care. If we don't push back now, they'll win." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What do you need?" "An interview, on the record, your side of what happened in that courtroom." "No." "Captain Blake, I said no. You want to help Lucas? Then focus on him, not me." "But you're the reason people are paying attention." "Exactly. And the moment this becomes about me, it stops being about him. You're smart enough to know that." Maya hesitated. "Then what do you want me to do?" "Keep digging. The Driscolls didn't just cover up what happened at that bar, they've been covering things up for years. Find the pattern." "How do you know there's a pattern?" Emma's voice was flat. "Because men like Brendan Driscoll don't get where they are by playing fair. They get there by making sure no one ever sees the bodies." The line went silent. "I'll look into it," Maya said finally. Emma hung up. She finished her coffee, rinsed the mug, and grabbed her keys. She had a shift at Mercy Grove in an hour. Life didn't stop just because the world was trying to tear you apart. But as she stepped out into the hallway, she found someone waiting. A man in a dark suit, mid-40s, expensive watch, predatory smile. "Emma Blake?" She stopped. "Who's asking?" "Richard Voss. I'm an attorney representing Colin Driscoll and his family." He held out a business card. She didn't take it. "We're filing a lawsuit," Voss continued smoothly. "Defamation, harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress. You, Lucas Reyes, and anyone else involved in spreading false information about my client." Emma stared at him. "False information?" "The implication that Colin Driscoll was the aggressor in the altercation is demonstrably untrue. My client was the victim of an unprovoked assault by a man with documented psychological issues. Your client shoved Lucas first. It's on camera. The footage has been taken out of context." "Then release the full tape." Voss's smile didn't waver. "We're not obligated to provide you with anything, but I am obligated to inform you that if you continue to make defamatory statements, we will pursue damages to the fullest extent of the law." Emma stepped closer. Voss's smile faltered. "You can file whatever you want," she said quietly. "But lying in a courtroom is perjury. And when the truth comes out, and it will, you're going to wish you'd picked a different client." Voss's jaw tightened. "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." She stepped around him and walked toward the stairs. Voss called after her. "You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a nurse with a medal, and medals don't win lawsuits." Emma didn't turn around. "We'll see." At Mercy Grove, the day was chaos. The ER was packed. A car accident, 2 overdoses, a kid with a broken arm, an elderly woman with chest pain. Emma moved through it all with the same calm efficiency she always had. She started IVs, checked vitals, updated charts, spoke to families in soft, steady tones. No one mentioned the news. No one brought up the courtroom. But she could feel the stares. Some of the younger nurses whispered when she passed. A doctor she'd worked with for years avoided eye contact. The charge nurse, a woman named Diane, who'd never liked Emma much to begin with, made a point of assigning her the worst cases. Emma didn't complain. She just worked. During her lunch break, she sat in the staff lounge with a sandwich she didn't eat and checked her phone. 3 missed calls from unknown numbers. 2 voicemails. She deleted them without listening. Then she saw the email. It was from the hospital's HR department. Subject: mandatory meeting. Ms. Blake, you are required to attend a meeting with Human Resources and Hospital Administration tomorrow at 9 a.m. regarding recent events that may impact your employment. Attendance is mandatory. Failure to attend may result in disciplinary action. Emma read it twice. Then she set the phone down and stared at the wall. She'd seen this before. Not here. Not in a hospital. But in the Army. When someone became a problem, the first thing leadership did was isolate them. Call them in for a meeting. Make them feel like they'd done something wrong. Pressure them into resigning before things got messy. It was textbook. And it was exactly what Brendan Driscoll would have told them to do. Emma stood, threw her sandwich in the trash, and walked back to the ER. She didn't sleep that night either. The meeting room was small and windowless, with a table too big for the space and chairs that creaked when you sat in them. Emma arrived exactly at 9. She didn't bring a lawyer. She didn't bring anyone. Across from her sat 3 people. Margaret Holder, the hospital's director of human resources. Mid-50s, tight bun, reading glasses on a chain. She looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Dr. Nathan Cross, chief of medicine, 62, gray beard, tired eyes. He'd been at Mercy Grove longer than anyone. And Gerald Klein, the hospital's legal counsel. 40s, slicked back hair, suit that cost more than Emma made in a month. Klein did the talking. Ms. Blake, thank you for coming. We wanted to discuss some concerns that have been brought to our attention. Emma said nothing. As you know, your recent involvement in a legal matter has attracted significant media attention. While we recognize your right to participate in legal proceedings, we are concerned about how this attention may reflect on Mercy Grove Medical Center. Reflect how? The hospital has a reputation to maintain. We serve a diverse community, and we must ensure that our staff's actions do not create conflicts or distractions that interfere with patient care. Emma leaned back in her chair. I haven't missed a shift. I haven't made any statements to the press. I've done my job. That's not in question, Dr. Cross said quietly. But the situation is escalating. We've received calls from donors, from board members. People are asking questions. What kind of questions? Klein cut in. Whether Mercy Grove employs individuals who engage in behavior that could expose the hospital to legal liability. Emma's eyes narrowed. Legal liability. Colin Driscoll's family has made it clear that they intend to pursue all available remedies. If you're named in a lawsuit, the hospital could be drawn into it by association. So you want me to resign? We want you to consider whether continuing your employment here is in everyone's best interest. Emma looked at each of them in turn. Holder wouldn't meet her eyes. Cross looked uncomfortable. Klein looked bored. No, Emma said. Klein blinked. I'm sorry? I said no, I'm not resigning. Ms. Blake, I don't think you understand the position you're in. I understand perfectly. You're trying to protect the hospital by throwing me under the bus. But I haven't done anything wrong, and if you fire me, I'll make sure everyone knows why. Klein's expression hardened. That sounds like a threat. It's a promise. Holder cleared her throat. Emma, please. We're trying to work with you here. No, you're trying to make me go away quietly, and I won't. Dr. Cross spoke up. Emma, I've known you for 11 years. You're one of the best nurses we have. But this situation is bigger than any of us. If you stay, it's going to get worse. For who? For me? Or for the hospital's donors? Cross didn't answer. Emma stood. If you want to fire me, fire me. But I'm not quitting. She walked out before anyone could respond. In the hallway, she stopped and leaned against the wall, breathing slowly. Her hands were shaking. She hated that. Hated that they could still get to her. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. Blake. Captain Blake, this is Sergeant Major William Nash. I served with you in Kandahar. Emma went still. Nash. I heard what's happening. I wanted you to know you're not alone. I've been making some calls, talking to people from the old unit. We've got your back. Emma's throat tightened. You don't have to. Yes, we do. You pulled half of us out of hell. We don't forget that. She closed her eyes. Thanks. There's something else. I did some digging on Brendan Driscoll. You were right. He's dirty. Real dirty. And I think I found someone who can prove it. Emma's eyes snapped open. Who? A cop. Name's Rachel Ortiz. She worked a case 3 years ago involving Driscoll's son. It got buried, but she kept copies of everything. She's willing to talk. Why? Because she's tired of watching scumbags get away with it. And because she saw your story and figured if you could stand up, maybe she could too. Emma felt something shift in her chest. Not hope. Not yet. But something close. Where is she? I'll send you the address. Meet her tonight, 8 o'clock. Nash? Don't thank me. Just finish what you started. The line went dead. Emma stared at the phone for a long moment. Then she pushed off the wall and walked toward the exit. She had 6 hours before the meeting. 6 hours to figure out how deep this went. Rachel Ortiz lived in a small house on the south side of the city, the kind of neighborhood where people kept to themselves and didn't ask questions. Emma pulled up at 7:55 and sat in her car, watching the street. At exactly 8, the porch light flicked on. Emma got out and walked to the door. The woman who answered was younger than Emma expected. Early 30s, dark hair pulled into a ponytail, sharp eyes that had seen too much too soon. Captain Blake? Just Emma. Rachel nodded and stepped aside. Come in. The house was neat but sparse. A couch, a coffee table, a TV on the wall, no pictures, no personal touches. Rachel gestured to the couch. Emma sat. Nash said you have information about Brendan Driscoll. Rachel sat across from her, hands folded. 3 years ago, I was a patrol officer. I responded to a call at a college party. Sexual assault. The victim said Colin Driscoll raped her in a bedroom while she was drunk. Emma's stomach turned. I took her statement, collected evidence, built a case. It was solid. DNA match, witnesses. The DA was ready to prosecute. What happened? Brendan Driscoll happened. He called in favors. The DA's office suddenly decided the evidence was inconclusive. The victim was pressured to recant. The case disappeared. Why didn't you go public? I tried. I went to my captain. He told me to drop it. I went to internal affairs. They buried the complaint. I went to a reporter. She got fired 2 days after I talked to her. Rachel's jaw tightened. So I kept my head down, kept the files, waited for a chance to do something about it. And now? Now I'm watching the same thing happen to Lucas Reyes, and I'm done waiting. Emma leaned forward. What do you need from me? Visibility? The Driscolls can bury a cop. They can bury a reporter, but they can't bury a decorated war hero who's already in the spotlight. If you stand with me, people will listen. They'll come after you. Let them. Rachel's eyes were hard. I didn't become a cop to protect rich assholes. I became a cop to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. And if I go down doing that, at least I'll go down fighting. Emma studied her, saw the anger, the conviction, the exhaustion. She saw herself. All right, Emma said. Let's do it. Rachel pulled a thick folder from under the coffee table and set it on the surface between them. This is everything. Statements, photos, DNA reports, text messages from Driscoll's lawyer trying to intimidate the victim. It's all here. Emma opened the folder. The first page was a photo of a young woman, early 20s, bruises on her arms, eyes red from crying. Emma's hands tightened on the edges of the paper. What's her name? Melissa Vance. She dropped out of college after the case fell apart. Last I heard, she moved out of state. Does she know you kept the files? No, I didn't want to put her at risk. Emma looked up. If we do this, she'll be dragged back into it. The Driscolls will go after her. I know. Rachel's voice was steady. But if we don't do this, how many more girls end up like her? Emma didn't have an answer. She closed the folder and stood. I need to make a call. She stepped outside and dialed Maya Torres. The reporter answered on the second ring. Captain Blake? I have a story for you, but it's bigger than Lucas Reyes. How big? Big enough to take down a city councilman. Silence. Then, I'm listening. Not over the phone. Meet me tomorrow. Bring a lawyer. This is going to get ugly. Where? Emma glanced back at the house. Rachel stood in the doorway, watching her. I'll text you the address. She hung up and walked back inside. Rachel was still standing. You think this'll work? I think it's the only shot we have. Rachel nodded slowly. Then let's make it count. Emma left an hour later with the folder tucked under her arm. She drove home through empty streets, the city lights blurring past. When she got to her apartment, she locked the door, set the folder on the table, and sat down. She didn't open it again. She already knew what was inside. and she already knew what it was going to cost, but some things were worth the price. The next morning, Emma woke to her phone ringing. It was Lucas. "Emma, turn on the news." She grabbed the remote and switched on the TV. The screen showed a press conference. Brendan Driscoll stood behind a podium, flanked by his lawyer and his son. Colin looked smug. Brendan looked calm. "Deeply troubled by the false accusations being leveled against my family," Brendan was saying. "My son is the victim here. He was brutally attacked by a man with a violent history, and now that man's supporters are attempting to rewrite the facts to suit their narrative." A reporter called out, "What about the security footage showing your son as the aggressor?" Brendan didn't miss a beat. "The footage has been edited. We have experts who will testify to that in court. This is a coordinated smear campaign, and we will not stand for it." Another reporter, "What about the allegations that you've used your position to cover up past incidents involving your son?" Brendan's expression darkened. "Those allegations are baseless and defamatory. Anyone who repeats them will be held accountable." Emma muted the TV. Lucas's voice came through the phone. "He's lying." "I know. What do we do?" Emma looked at the folder on her table. "We fight back." She hung up and called Maya Torres. "It's time." Maya met her at a coffee shop downtown 2 hours later. She brought a lawyer, a woman named Sandra Kim, who specialized in whistleblower cases and had a reputation for taking on powerful people. Emma laid the folder on the table. "This is everything Rachel Ortiz collected on Colin Driscoll 3 years ago. Sexual assault, cover-up, intimidation. It's all documented." Maya opened the folder. Her eyes went wide. Sandra leaned over, scanning the pages. "This is explosive. It's also dangerous," Emma said. "The Driscolls will come after everyone involved. You need to be ready for that." Maya looked up. "Are you?" Emma didn't hesitate. "Yes." Sandra closed the folder. "If we publish this, it's going to start a war." "Good," Emma said. "Because they started it when they thought no one would fight back." Maya pulled out her phone. "I'll need to verify everything, talk to sources, get statements." "How long?" 2 days, maybe less." Emma stood. "Then we don't have much time." As she walked out of the coffee shop, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Back off or you'll regret it." Emma stared at the screen, then she deleted the message and kept walking. That night, someone broke into Rachel Ortiz's house. She wasn't home. She was working a late shift, but when she came back at midnight, her front door was open. The folder was gone. Everything else was untouched. Rachel called Emma immediately. "They know." Emma's blood went cold. "Are you safe?" "For now. But they're escalating." "Where are you?" "Still at the house." "I'm not running." "Rachel." "I'm not running," Rachel repeated, her voice hard. "They want to scare me? Fine. Let them try." Emma closed her eyes. "Stay there. I'm coming to you." She grabbed her keys and ran. But when she got to Rachel's neighborhood, she saw the lights. Police cars. Ambulance. Yellow tape. Emma's heart stopped. She parked and ran toward the house. A uniformed officer stopped her. "Ma'am, you can't—" "I'm a friend. What happened?" The officer hesitated. Then he stepped aside. Rachel was sitting on the back of an ambulance, a blanket around her shoulders. Her face was bruised. Her lip was split. Emma's vision went red. She crossed the yard in 4 strides. "Who did this?" Rachel looked up. Her eyes were blazing. 2 guys, masks. They were waiting inside when I got home. What did they want? They told me to forget about the Driscolls. Told me if I didn't, next time they wouldn't stop at just a beating. Emma's fists clenched. "Did you see anything? Plates? Tattoos?" "No, but I got this." Rachel held up her phone. On the screen was a photo, blurry but clear enough. A tattoo on one of the men's wrists. A snake coiled around a dagger. Emma stared at it. She'd seen that tattoo before. On the wrist of a man who'd been sitting in the back of Brendan Driscoll's press conference that morning. Emma pulled out her own phone and took a picture of Rachel's screen. The tattoo was distinct. The snake's head pointed downward, fangs bared. The dagger thrust through its coils at an angle. Not generic prison ink. Custom work. "Send me that photo," Emma said. Rachel's fingers moved across her phone. A second later, Emma's buzzed. She forwarded it immediately to Nash with a single line of text. "Need ID on this. Fast." A paramedic approached, clipboard in hand. "Ma'am, we need to take you to the hospital. Get those injuries documented." Rachel shook her head. "I'm fine." "You have a concussion, possible fractured rib. You need imaging." "I said I'm fine." The paramedic looked at Emma, exasperated. Emma crouched in front of Rachel. Go. Get checked out. Let them document everything. Photos, x-rays, the whole thing. We need a record. They're just going to say I fell down some stairs. Let them try. You've got witnesses. You've got that photo. And you've got me. Emma's voice dropped. But if you don't get treatment and something's broken, you could collapse in the middle of testifying. Don't give them that opening. Rachel's jaw worked. Then she nodded once. The paramedic helped her into the ambulance. Emma watched it pull away, lights flashing but no siren. A detective emerged from the house. Mid-40s, rumpled suit, the look of a man who'd seen this script too many times. His badge read Martinez. You're Emma Blake. It wasn't a question. I am. You were here earlier tonight, before the incident. Rachel called me after she found her door open. I came to check on her. Martinez pulled out a small notebook. What time was that call? Around 12:15. And when did you arrive? 12:30, maybe 12:35. He scribbled something. Officer Ortiz claims 2 masked men assaulted her inside her residence. She managed to photograph one of them. You see anybody when you got here? Just your people. Martinez studied her. She also claims the attack was retaliation for her cooperation in a matter involving Brendan Driscoll's family. You know anything about that? Emma met his gaze. You'd have to ask her. I'm asking you. Then the answer's no. Martinez clicked his pen, closed the notebook. Captain Blake, I've been a cop for 22 years. I know when people are playing games, and I know when they're about to get hurt. Is that a threat? It's advice. Whatever you think you're doing, it's bigger than you, bigger than Ortiz, bigger than that veteran you pulled out of lockup. The Driscolls have been running this city since before I had a badge. They don't lose. Everyone loses eventually. Martinez almost smiled. You really believe that? I've seen it happen. He tilted his head. In a war zone, maybe. This isn't Afghanistan, Captain. This is Harbor City. Different rules. Rules are rules. Someone breaks them, there's consequences. Not for people like Brendan Driscoll. Emma stepped closer. Martinez didn't back up, but his posture shifted. Here's the thing about people like him, Emma said quietly. They think they're untouchable because no one's ever touched them. But all it takes is one person willing to push back. One crack in the foundation, then the whole thing comes down. Martinez looked at her for a long moment. Then he put the notebook in his pocket. I hope you know what you're doing. So do I. He walked back toward the house. Emma stood alone in the yard, the flashing lights painting the street in red and blue. She pulled out her phone and opened the photo of the tattoo again. Stared at it until her eyes burned. Then she got in her car and drove. Not home. To the one place she knew she'd find answers. The Iron Post was a dive bar on the edge of Harbor City's industrial district, the kind of place where veterans drank cheap beer and didn't ask each other too many questions. Nash had told her about it years ago, said it was where the old unit gathered when they needed to remember they weren't alone. Emma had never gone. She pushed through the door at 1:40 in the morning. The place was half empty. A few men at the bar, heads down. A couple in the corner booth, talking low. The bartender, a woman with a scar across her temple and arms that could bend rebar, glanced up. We're closing soon. I'm looking for someone. The bartender's eyes narrowed, then recognition flickered. You're Blake. Emma nodded. The woman jerked her chin toward the back. Pool table. Emma walked past the bar. In the back room, under a single hanging light, 2 men were playing 8-ball. One was tall and wiry, probably early 60s. The other was built like a truck, younger, with a shaved head and a tattoo sleeve on his left arm. The older man looked up as Emma approached. Well, damn, he said. Nash said you might show up. You know who I am? Everyone knows who you are, Captain. You're all over the news. He set his pool cue against the table and extended a hand. Hector Ruiz. I was in Kandahar, second wave. Emma shook his hand. You know Nash well? Well enough. He called me 2 hours ago. Said you might need help identifying someone. Emma pulled out her phone and showed him the tattoo photo. Hector leaned in, squinted. Then his face went hard. Where'd you get this? A friend took it. The guy wearing it broke into her house tonight. Beat her up. Hector looked at the other man. Vic, come here. The younger man stepped over, looked at the screen, swore under his breath. That's Caleb Frost, Vic said. Used to run with a crew out of the docks. Enforcement, collections. Dirty work for people who didn't want their hands dirty. Used to? Still does, far as I know. Just got better at hiding it. Emma's pulse quickened. Who does he work for? Vic and Hector exchanged a look. Officially, Hector said, he's got a security consulting business, does personal protection, corporate gigs, that kind of thing. And unofficially? He's a fixer. You need someone roughed up, someone scared off, someone disappeared. Frost's your guy. Word is he's been on Brendan Driscoll's payroll for years. Emma's chest tightened. How do you know that? Because 3 years ago, he came after a buddy of mine. Guy was a union organizer, trying to get dock workers better pay. Driscoll didn't like that. Frost showed up at my buddy's apartment one night, broke his kneecap with a pipe. Told him if he didn't back off, next time it'd be his skull. What happened? Hector's jaw clenched. My buddy left town. Never came back. Emma stared at the photo. Where can I find Frost? You can't. He moves around. Different apartments, different cars, stays off the grid. There's got to be something. Vic scratched his jaw. He's got a girlfriend, works at a salon on 4th Street, place called Radiance. She might know where he is. Emma committed the name to memory. Thanks. She turned to leave. Captain, Hector called. She stopped. Frost isn't some street thug. He's dangerous. You go after him, you better be ready. Emma looked back. I'm always ready. She left before either of them could respond. Outside, the air was cold and damp. Emma sat in her car and pulled up the address for Radiance on her phone. It was 10 minutes away. She started the engine. At 2 a.m, 4th Street was dead. The salon was dark, a closed sign hanging in the window. Emma parked across the street and waited. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up. A silver sedan, new but not flashy. A woman got out. Late 20s, bleached blonde hair, designer purse. She unlocked the salon door and slipped inside. Emma waited another 5 minutes, then she crossed the street and knocked. The woman appeared in the doorway, keys in hand, annoyance on her face. We're closed. I'm not here for a haircut. The woman's eyes flicked over Emma. Scrubs, tired face, no makeup. Then what do you want? I'm looking for Caleb Frost. The annoyance vanished, replaced by something colder. I don't know anyone by that name. Yes, you do. He sent 2 men to beat up a cop tonight. One of them had a snake tattoo. That was Caleb. The woman started to close the door. Emma put her hand on it. I'm not a cop. I'm not here to arrest him. I just need to talk. Get your hand off my door or I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Tell them Caleb Frost assaulted Officer Rachel Ortiz. See how fast Brendan Driscoll throws him under the bus to save himself. The woman froze. Emma pressed. You think Driscoll's loyal? You think he'll protect Caleb if this goes public? He won't. He'll cut him loose the second it's convenient. And when that happens, Caleb goes down alone. The woman's grip on the door tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want Caleb. I want Driscoll. And if Caleb's smart, he'll see that cooperating is his only way out. He's not going to cooperate with you. Then he's going to prison. Either way, I get what I need. The question is whether he goes down too. The woman stared at her. Then she pulled out her phone, typed something, and held it up. A text conversation. Where are you? Out. Be back late. How late? Don't wait up. Emma memorized the timestamp, sent 20 minutes ago. He's working, the woman said flatly. That's all I know. Working where? I don't ask. He doesn't tell. Emma studied her, saw the fear underneath the tough act. What's your name? Why? Because when this blows up, you're going to need someone on your side, someone who knows you tried to help. The woman hesitated. Vanessa? Vanessa, if Caleb comes home tonight, you call me. Emma handed her a slip of paper with her number. If he doesn't, you still call me. Either way, you don't want to be caught in the middle when this goes down. Vanessa took the paper, didn't say anything. Emma left. She sat in her car and checked her phone. A text from Nash. Got a hit on Frost. He's got a storage unit registered under a shell company. Address attached. Could be where he's keeping equipment. Emma read the address. An industrial park on the south edge of town. She put the car in gear. The storage facility was surrounded by chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. A single security camera pointed at the entrance gate. Emma parked a block away and approached on foot. The gate was locked, but the fence had a gap near the back corner where the mesh had been cut and poorly repaired. Emma slipped through. Inside, rows of storage units stretched into the darkness. Most were secured with heavy padlocks. A few had lights on inside, glowing faintly through the vents. Emma moved quietly, checking unit numbers. Nash had sent her 47B. She found it in the 3rd row. No light. No padlock. The door was open an inch. Emma's instincts screamed. She pulled out her phone, turned off the ringer, and texted Nash. At the storage unit. Door's open. Feels wrong. Then she pushed the door wider. The smell hit her first. Copper. Rust. Something organic and rotten. She stepped inside. The unit was small, maybe 10 by 10. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with cardboard boxes. A workbench in the corner, tools hanging on pegboard. And in the center, on the concrete floor, a tarp, covered in something dark. Emma's mouth went dry. She stepped closer, crouched, pulled back the edge of the tarp, and saw the face. Male, mid-40s, eyes open, staring at nothing, gunshot wound to the temple. Emma dropped the tarp and stumbled back. Her phone buzzed, a text from Nash. "Get out, now, police are on their way." "You've been set up!" Emma's blood turned to ice. She ran. Behind her, the sound of car doors slamming, voices shouting, flashlight beams cutting through the dark. She made it to the fence, squeezed through the gap, and sprinted for her car. Sirens wailed in the distance. She got in, started the engine, and drove. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the wheel. Someone had put a body in that unit. Someone had made sure she'd find it, and someone had called the cops. This wasn't just intimidation anymore. This was a frame. Emma drove in circles for 20 minutes, checking her mirrors, making sure no one was following. Then she pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour diner and sat with the engine off, breathing hard. Her phone rang. "Nash," she answered. "What the hell just happened?" "You got played. Someone tipped the cops that you'd be at that storage unit. They were waiting for you to show up." "Who's the dead guy?" "I don't know yet, but I guarantee he's connected to the Driscolls somehow. This is a setup, Emma. They're trying to pin something on you." Emma's mind raced. "They can't. I didn't touch anything. I didn't—" "Doesn't matter. Your prints are probably on the door. Your car was seen in the area. They'll spin it however they want." "Then I need to get ahead of it." "How?" Emma stared through the windshield at the empty parking lot. "I go public, right now, before they can control the narrative." You sure about that?" "No, but it's the only move I've got." She hung up and dialed Maya Torres. The reporter answered, groggy. "Blake? It's 3 a.m. I need you to publish the story, tonight. Everything Rachel gave you, everything we've got on the Driscolls." Maya's voice sharpened. "What happened?" "They're trying to frame me for murder. If we don't move now, I'm done." Silence. Then, "I'll need an hour to get it ready." "You've got 30 minutes. "Emma, 30 minutes, Maya, or I'm walking into a police station and this whole thing dies." Another pause. "All right, I'll call you back." Emma hung up and leaned her head against the seat. She'd crossed a line. No going back now. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed out of this." Emma stared at it. Then she typed back, "Come and make me." No response. She waited. 28 minutes later, Maya called. "It's live." Emma pulled up the Harbor City Ledger website on her phone. The headline hit like a sledgehammer. "City councilman accused of covering up son's sexual assault. Former officer provides evidence." Beneath it, the full story. Rachel's testimony, the photos, the DNA reports, the text messages from Richard Voss threatening the victim. And at the bottom, a statement from Emma. "I came forward because I've seen what happens when powerful people think they're above the law. They're not. And if it takes dragging every buried secret into the light to prove that, then that's what I'll do." Emma set the phone down. The city was about to wake up to a war. By 6 a.m., the story had gone viral. Local news picked it up. National outlets started calling. Social media exploded. By 7, Brendan Driscoll's office released a statement denying everything and threatening legal action. By 8, protesters were gathering outside City Hall. By 9, Emma's phone was ringing nonstop. She ignored all of it. She was sitting in her apartment, drinking cold coffee, when someone knocked on her door. She looked through the peephole. 2 police officers. Uniforms. Serious faces. She opened the door. "Emma Blake?" "Yes." "You're under arrest for obstruction of justice and tampering with a crime scene." They read her rights, cuffed her, led her down the stairs while neighbors watched from their doorways. Emma didn't resist, didn't speak. She'd known this was coming. At the precinct, they put her in an interrogation room and left her alone for 2 hours. When the door finally opened, it wasn't a detective. It was Brendan Driscoll. He walked in, closed the door behind him, and sat down across from her. "You've made a serious mistake, Captain Blake." Emma didn't respond. "You think you're some kind of hero. You think you're fighting for justice, but all you've done is destroy your own life." "If that's true, why are you here?" Brendan leaned back. Because I'm giving you a chance to walk away. Drop the accusations. Admit you were misled by Officer Ortiz. Apologize publicly, and I'll make sure the charges against you disappear. And if I don't, then you go to prison, and Lucas Reyes goes back to jail, and Rachel Ortiz loses her badge, and everyone who's ever helped you gets buried. Emma stared at him. You really think you can do that? I know I can. She leaned forward. Here's what I know. That body in the storage unit? It's going to tie back to you. The DNA evidence Rachel collected, it's already in the hands of the state attorney general, and the reporter who published the story, she's got 3 more articles ready to go, each one worse than the last. Brendan's face darkened. You're bluffing. Try me. He stood abruptly. You're going to regret this. I already do, but I'm doing it anyway. He walked to the door, paused. You know what your problem is, Blake? You think because you saved a few soldiers, you're invincible. But you're not. You're just a nurse, and nurses don't win wars. Emma smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. That's where you're wrong. We're the ones who decide who survives. Brendan's jaw tightened. Then he left. Emma sat alone in the interrogation room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. An hour later, the door opened again. This time, it was a woman. 50s, sharp suit, badge on her belt. FBI. She sat down and slid a folder across the table. Agent Rebecca Hayes, I've been investigating Brendan Driscoll for 18 months, and you just handed me everything I needed to take him down. Emma opened the folder. Inside were surveillance photos, wire transcripts, financial records, and a picture of Caleb Frost standing next to Brendan Driscoll outside a restaurant. We've been watching Frost for months, Hayes said, waiting for him to make a mistake. You just gave us that mistake. The body in the storage unit. His name was Marcus Webb, low-level enforcer. He worked for Frost. 2 days ago, he tried to extort Driscoll, threatened to go public with evidence of bribes and payoffs. Emma's pulse quickened. Driscoll had him killed. We think so. And we think Frost did it. If we can tie them together, we can bring RICO charges. Conspiracy. Murder for hire. The whole thing. What do you need from me? Hayes leaned forward. Testimony. Everything you know. Everything Rachel told you. Everything you've seen. And in exchange? The charges against you disappear. You walk out of here today, and you get to watch Brendan Driscoll go to prison. Emma looked at the photos again, at the evidence spread out in front of her. I want immunity for Rachel Ortiz and for Lucas Reyes. They don't get touched. Hayes nodded. Done. And I want protection. For all of us. Until Driscoll's behind bars. We can arrange that. Emma closed the folder. Then let's finish this. Hayes stood and opened the door. Outside, 2 agents were waiting. Get her out of here, Hayes said. Safe house. Full detail. They escorted Emma through the precinct. As she walked past the bullpen, she saw Martinez, the detective who'd warned her. He met her eyes. Nodded once. She nodded back. In the parking garage, they put her in an unmarked SUV, tinted windows, armed agents in front. As they pulled out onto the street, Emma's phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. I saw the news. Are you okay? She typed back. I will be. Stay safe. Another buzz. Rachel, they're putting me on leave, full investigation. But I'm not backing down, Emma replied. Good. Neither am I. The SUV drove through the city, past the courthouse, past the hospital, past the neighborhoods where people were just waking up to their normal lives. Emma stared out the window. She'd started this to save one man. Now she was taking down an empire. The safe house was a 2-story colonial in a quiet suburb. Agents posted at every entrance, surveillance cameras, panic buttons in every room. Emma was shown to a bedroom on the 2nd floor, clean sheets, bland furniture, a window that overlooked a yard with a privacy fence. She sat on the bed and finally let herself breathe. Her phone rang. Nash. You're all over the news. I know. The FBI's holding a press conference in an hour. They're announcing the investigation into Driscoll. Emma closed her eyes. It's really happening. Yeah. And you're the reason why. I just pushed. The system did the rest. The system doesn't push itself, Emma. You know that. She didn't respond. Listen, Nash said. I talked to some of the old unit. Everyone wants to help. If you need anything, I need you to look after Lucas. Make sure he's safe. Already on it. He's with Ruiz. No one's getting near him. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't get yourself killed before this is over. Emma almost laughed. I'll try. She hung up and lay back on the bed. For the first time in days, she slept. When she woke, it was dark outside. Her phone showed dozens of missed calls, texts, emails, and one voicemail. She played it. A woman's voice. Young, shaking. Captain Blake, my name is Melissa Vance. I'm the woman Colin Driscoll assaulted 3 years ago. I heard about what you're doing, about Rachel, about everything, and I want to help. I want to testify. I don't care what they do to me. I'm done being afraid. The message ended. Emma sat up, heart pounding. She called Hayes. We've got another witness. The next morning, Emma sat in a conference room at the FBI field office. Across from her, Melissa Vance looked smaller than she had in the photos. Thinner, older than her years, but her eyes were steady. I'm ready, Melissa said. Hayes slid a legal pad across the table. Tell us everything. Melissa took a breath, and then she started talking. She talked for 3 hours. When she was done, Hayes had enough to destroy Colin Driscoll, and Brendan, and everyone who'd helped them. By the end of the week, the indictments came down. Brendan Driscoll, conspiracy, obstruction, bribery. Colin Driscoll, sexual assault, witness intimidation. Caleb Frost, murder, conspiracy. Richard Voss, obstruction, tampering. And Judge Ronald Pemberton, abuse of authority, collusion. The city exploded. Protests, resignations, investigations into every case Pemberton had ever touched. Emma watched it all from the safe house, numb. She'd done it. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like standing in the wreckage of a building she'd brought down with her own hands. On the 7th day, Hayes came to the safe house. We've arrested Frost. He's talking, giving us everything in exchange for a deal. Emma looked up. What about Driscoll? He's lawyering up, but it won't matter. We've got him. And the trial? Months away. But you'll be called to testify. You, Rachel, Melissa, Lucas, all of you. Emma nodded. Hayes sat down across from her. You did something most people never could. You took on a machine and won. I didn't win. I just broke it. Sometimes that's the same thing. Emma didn't respond. Hayes stood. You're free to go. Anytime you want. We'll keep a detail on you for a few more weeks, but the immediate threat's over. What about the others? Rachel's back on duty. Lucas is in a VA program. Melissa's relocating out of state with witness protection. Everyone's safe. Emma exhaled slowly. Good. Hayes left. Emma sat alone in the conference room, staring at the wall. She'd fought. She'd won. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was still coming. That night, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. Blake. Heavy breathing on the other end, then a voice. Low, familiar. You think this is over? Emma's blood went cold. Caleb Frost. You think because the FBI's got me, I can't reach you? You think because Driscoll's going down, you're safe? If you're calling to threaten me, I'm calling to tell you the truth. Driscoll's not the top. He's just a piece, and the people above him, they don't forgive. Who? The line went dead. Emma stared at the phone. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Outside her door. Slow, deliberate. She stood, pulse hammering. The doorknob turned. The door swung open. Agent Hayes stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 others, weapons drawn but pointed low. Her face was tight. We need to move. Now. Emma's heart was still racing from Frost's call. What's happening? Frost just escaped custody. Transport van was ambushed 20 minutes ago. 3 officers down. He's gone. Emma grabbed her jacket. How? Inside help. Someone on the transport detail. Hayes was already moving down the hallway. We're relocating you. Different facility, higher security. They hustled Emma down the stairs and into the garage where 2 armored SUVs waited, engines running. She climbed into the back of the lead vehicle. Hayes got in beside her. The convoy pulled out fast, no lights, taking side streets away from the safe house. Emma stared out the tinted window. Frost said Driscoll wasn't the top, that there were people above him. Hayes didn't look surprised. We've suspected that for months. Driscoll's dirty, but his resources don't match his official income. Someone's been bankrolling him. Who? We don't know yet. Shell corporations, offshore accounts, everything's layered. But if Frost was willing to break out just to warn you, then whoever's pulling the strings sees you as a real threat. Because I exposed the system. Because you proved it could be exposed. Hayes glanced at her. That's more dangerous than any single arrest. The SUV turned onto a highway on-ramp, merging into late-night traffic. Emma watched the city lights blur past. Her phone buzzed. Text from Nash. Heard about Frost. You safe? She typed back. For now. FBI's moving me. Another buzz. Lucas and Rachel are secure. Ruiz has them in a location even I don't know. Smart. Emma pocketed the phone and leaned back. Her body ached. She hadn't realized how tense she'd been holding herself. How long until we get there? She asked. 40 minutes. Federal building downtown, holding cells on the 3rd floor. No windows. Controlled access. Emma nodded. Closed her eyes. She didn't sleep. 10 minutes later, the driver's voice crackled over the radio. We've got a tail. Black sedan. 2 cars back. Hayes twisted in her seat, looking through the rear window. How long? Picked us up about 3 miles ago. Shake him. The driver accelerated, weaving through traffic. Emma watched through the side mirror as the sedan kept pace, smooth and deliberate. Hayes pulled her sidearm, checked the magazine. Ram protocol. If they get close, we hit them off the road. The driver nodded. Copy. Emma's pulse spiked. You think it's Frost? Or whoever helped him escape? The sedan surged forward, closing the gap. Emma could see 2 figures in the front seats now, driver and passenger, both wearing dark clothing. Hayes keyed her radio. Trail vehicle, prepare to intercept. The second SUV dropped back, positioning itself between their vehicle and the sedan. The sedan swerved left, trying to pass. The trail SUV blocked it. Then the sedan's passenger window rolled down. Gun! Hayes shouted. The crack of gunfire split the night. Rounds slammed into the trail SUV's armored panels. The vehicle swerved but held course. Hayes barked into the radio. Return fire authorized! The trail SUV's window lowered. An agent leaned out with a rifle and squeezed off 3 controlled bursts. The sedan's windshield spiderwebbed. The vehicle jerked hard to the right, clipped the guardrail, and spun out. Eyes on, Hayes snapped. Is it disabled? Affirmative. Driver's slumped. Passengers moving, but wait, he's out. He's running. Let him. We keep moving. The convoy accelerated, leaving the wrecked sedan behind. Emma realized she was gripping the door handle hard enough to hurt. Hayes holstered her weapon. You all right? Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. They drove the rest of the way in silence. No more tales, no more shots. When they reached the federal building, they pulled into an underground garage. Armed agents met them at the elevator. Hayes led Emma up 3 floors and through a series of locked doors into a secure wing. The holding cell was small but clean. Bed bolted to the wall. Stainless steel sink and toilet. A camera in the corner. Hayes stood in the doorway. You'll be safe here. No one gets in without clearance. I'll have someone bring you food. How long? Until we figure out who's orchestrating this. Could be a day. Could be longer. Emma sat on the bed. What about the trial? Still moving forward. Judge set a date for 3 weeks from now. Driscoll's lawyers are filing motions to dismiss, but they won't stick. We've got him. And Frost? Hayes's jaw tightened. We'll find him. She left. The door locked with a heavy metallic thunk. Emma lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. She'd been in worse places. Sandbagged field hospitals, transport trucks with broken shocks, tents that leaked in the rain. But those places had purpose. This was just waiting. Her mind kept replaying Frost's words. The people above him don't forgive. Who were they? What did they have to lose? And why did they care so much about one nurse who'd stood up in a courtroom? Hours passed. Someone slid a tray of food through a slot in the door. Sandwich, apple, bottled water. Emma ate mechanically, not tasting any of it. Her phone had been taken for security, no contact with the outside, just her and the walls. She must have dozed off because she woke to the sound of voices outside the door. Muffled, urgent. She sat up. The voices grew louder, then footsteps. Fast, running. The door unlocked. Hayes came in, her face pale. Get up, we're leaving. Emma stood. What happened? Someone just leaked your location. Every news outlet in the city knows you're here. There's a crowd forming outside, protesters, media, and we just intercepted chatter that someone's planning to breach the building. Who? We don't know, but we can't risk it. Come on. They moved quickly through the corridors. More agents joined them, forming a protective box around Emma. She could hear it now, distant shouting from outside, chanting. They descended to the garage. A single black van waited, nondescript, no government plates. Hayes opened the rear door. Get in. Stay low. Emma climbed inside. The interior was stripped down. No seats except a bench along one side. No windows. A driver and one other agent up front. Hayes didn't get in. She stood at the door. This van's going to a secondary location. Off the books. Only 3 people know about it. You'll be safe. You're not coming? I need to stay here. Manage the situation, but I'll be in contact. Emma grabbed her wrist. If you don't hear from me in 12 hours, I'll burn the city down looking for you. Hayes pulled back and slammed the door. The van pulled out, winding through the garage and up a ramp to a side exit. Emma braced herself against the wall as they took corners fast. The driver spoke without turning around. We're heading north, ETA 90 minutes. Emma didn't respond. She just focused on breathing. They drove for an hour in silence. The city gave way to suburbs, then to rural roads lined with trees, no streetlights, no traffic. The driver slowed. We've got company. Emma's stomach dropped. Where? Headlights behind us. Coming up fast. The other agent in the passenger seat pulled a pistol from a holster. How far to the safe house? 20 minutes. We won't make it. They're closing. The driver floored it. The van surged forward, engine roaring. Emma wedged herself into the corner, bracing for impact. The vehicle behind them rammed the rear bumper. The van fishtailed, but the driver corrected, keeping control. Hold on, he shouted. Another impact. Harder this time. Metal screamed. The agent in the passenger seat rolled down his window, leaned out, and fired 3 shots. Emma heard glass shatter behind them. But the pursuing vehicle didn't slow. It rammed them again. This time, the van skidded sideways, tires screeching. The driver fought the wheel, but they were going too fast. The van left the road, plowed through a ditch, and slammed into a tree. The world went dark. When Emma came to, her head was ringing and her chest hurt. She was lying on her side in the back of the van. Smoke filled the air. She coughed, tried to sit up. Pain shot through her ribs. The front of the van was crumpled. The driver slumped over the wheel, not moving. The passenger agent groaned, fumbling for his weapon. Outside, footsteps, voices. Check the back. Emma's vision swam. She tried to move, but her body wasn't cooperating. The rear door wrenched open. A flashlight beam hit her face. A man stood silhouetted against the night. He reached in, grabbed her by the arm, and dragged her out. She hit the ground hard, gasped. Another man appeared, older, silver hair. Expensive coat. He crouched in front of her. Captain Blake, we finally meet. Emma blinked, trying to focus. Who? My name is Victor Ashford, and you've been a very inconvenient problem. The name clicked. Victor Ashford, real estate mogul, political donor, board member of 6 corporations, and Brendan Driscoll's largest campaign contributor. Emma tried to push herself up. Ashford put a hand on her shoulder, holding her down. Not hard, just firm. I want you to understand something, he said quietly. Brendan was useful, a tool. But tools break. When they do, you replace them. He tilted his head. You, however, are not a tool. You're a symbol, and symbols are dangerous. You can't. I can do whatever I need to. Brendan thought he could manage you with threats and lawsuits. Frost thought he could scare you into silence. But I know better. He stood. You're not afraid. And that makes you a liability that needs to be removed. Emma's hand closed around a piece of broken glass on the ground. She gripped it, ignoring the sting. Ashford gestured to one of his men. Make it look like an accident. The van crash should cover it. The man stepped forward, pulling out a knife. Emma swung the glass shard up, slashing across his wrist. He screamed, stumbled back. She rolled, scrambled to her feet, and ran. Behind her, shouting, footsteps pounding. She made it into the trees, branches whipping at her face. Her ribs screamed with every breath, but she didn't stop. A gunshot cracked. Bark exploded near her head. She zigzagged, putting trees between herself and the shooters. Her phone was gone. No way to call for help. No idea where she was. She just ran. Minutes blurred together. Her lungs burned. Her legs threatened to give out. Then she saw it. A light through the trees. A house. She burst out of the forest and onto a gravel driveway. The house was small, 1 story, lights on inside. She stumbled to the front door and pounded. Help, please! The door opened. An elderly man stood there, startled. What in the... Call 911. Now. People are trying to kill me. He hesitated for only a second. Then he pulled her inside and locked the door. He grabbed a phone off the wall, dialed. This is Tom Garrett, 4732 Pine Ridge Road. I've got a woman here, says someone's after her. The window shattered. Tom dropped the phone. A man climbed through, gun raised. Emma grabbed a lamp off a side table and swung it. It connected with the man's head. He went down. Another man came through the door, kicking it open. Tom pulled a shotgun from behind the couch and fired. The blast was deafening. The man flew backward. Emma stared. "You!" "Served in Korea," Tom said grimly, racking another shell. "Get to the back room. Now." Emma ran. Behind her, more gunfire. Tom was shouting, returning fire. She found a bedroom, slammed the door, and shoved a dresser in front of it. Then she went to the window, forced it open, and climbed out. She dropped into a backyard, rolled, and kept moving. Sirens wailed in the distance. She ran toward the sound. 5 minutes later, police cars and an ambulance screamed past her, heading toward Tom's house. She flagged down a patrol car. The officer got out, hand on his weapon. "Ma'am, are you—" "My name is Emma Blake. I'm in FBI protective custody. Call Agent Rebecca Hayes, now." The officer stared. Then recognition dawned. "Get in the car." Emma collapsed into the back seat. The officer radioed it in. "Dispatch, I've got Emma Blake. Repeat, I have Emma Blake. Requesting immediate FBI contact." Static. Then a voice. "Copy that. Hold position. Agents en route." Emma leaned her head back and closed her eyes. She was alive. Barely. Hayes arrived 20 minutes later with a convoy of federal vehicles. She yanked open the patrol car door and pulled Emma into a hug so tight it hurt. "You're alive." Emma nodded against her shoulder. Hayes pulled back, scanning her for injuries. "What happened?" "Ashford, Victor Ashford. He's the one pulling the strings." Hayes went very still. "You're sure?" "He told me himself, right before he tried to have me killed." Hayes' expression turned to stone. "We're bringing him in. He's powerful, connected. You won't— I don't care if he owns half the state. Attempted murder of a federal witness? He's done." Hayes pulled out her phone, made a call. "I need a warrant for Victor Ashford. Attempted murder, conspiracy, everything." She paused, listening. "I don't care what time it is. Wake up a judge. This happens now." She hung up and looked at Emma. "Can you testify to what he said?" "Every word." "Good, because we're going to bury him." By dawn, Victor Ashford was in custody. The FBI raided his estate, his offices, and 3 properties linked to shell corporations. They seized computers, files, bank records, and they found everything. Financial ties to Brendan Driscoll, payments to Caleb Frost, money trails leading to offshore accounts, evidence of bribes, payoffs, intimidation, and a ledger, handwritten, detailing every illegal transaction for the past 15 years. It was a roadmap to an empire built on corruption. The media exploded. Ashford's arrest was front-page news. National coverage. His name dragged through every outlet. Within 48 hours, 3 city officials resigned. 2 state legislators announced they wouldn't seek re-election. A police captain was suspended pending investigation. The machine was collapsing. Emma watched it all from a hotel room, this time guarded by a rotating team of federal agents who didn't let her out of their sight. Nash called. "You did it. We're not done yet." "Close enough. Ashford's lawyer is already trying to cut a deal. He's going to give up everyone." "What about Frost?" "Still in the wind, but with Ashford in custody, he's got no support, no money, no resources. He'll surface eventually." Emma wasn't so sure. Men like Frost didn't give up. They adapted, but that was a problem for another day. 3 days later, Emma stood in a packed federal courtroom. Brendan Driscoll sat at the defense table, his expensive suit looking rumpled. His lawyer, not Richard Voss, who'd been disbarred, whispered frantically in his ear. Colin sat beside him, stone-faced. The judge, a severe woman named Patricia Langford, called the room to order. "We're here for the arraignment of Brendan Michael Driscoll and Colin James Driscoll. The charges are extensive. How did the defendants plead?" Brendan's lawyer stood. "Not guilty, Your Honor." The courtroom murmured. Judge Langford wasn't impressed. "Given the severity of the charges and the flight risk, bail is denied. The defendants will be remanded to federal custody pending trial." Brendan's face went white. "Your Honor, that's—" "The decision is made, Mr. Driscoll. Court is adjourned." The gavel slammed. Marshals moved in, cuffing both men. Brendan twisted in his seat, searching the gallery. His eyes found Emma. She stared back. No expression, no satisfaction, just the cold, hard certainty that justice had finally caught up. Brendan's mouth moved. She couldn't hear the words, but she could read his lips. "This isn't over." Emma didn't blink. Yes, it was. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Emma walked through them without stopping, flanked by agents. Maya Torres caught up with her at the car. "Captain Blake, do you have a statement?" Emma paused, looked at the reporter who'd risked everything to publish the truth. "The system isn't broken," Emma said. "It's just run by people who think they're above it. When you challenge that, they fight back. But if you stand your ground, if you don't let them intimidate you into silence, the truth comes out, always." "What's next for you?" Emma almost smiled. "I'm going back to work." She got in the car and closed the door. As they pulled away, her phone buzzed, a text from Lucas. "I'm starting my first day at the VA Counseling Center. Thanks for not giving up on me." Emma felt something loosen in her chest. She typed back, "You earned it. Now help someone else." Another text. "Rachel. They're dropping the internal investigation. I'm back on full duty, and they promoted me to detective." Emma smiled. "Congratulations. You deserve it." The car drove through Harbor City, past the courthouse, past the hospital, past all the places where the fight had unfolded. Hayes sat beside her. "You're really going back to Mercy Grove?" "That's where I belong. They tried to fire you." "They didn't succeed." Hayes shook her head. "You're tougher than anyone I've ever met." Emma looked out the window. "I'm just tired of running." The car pulled up outside Emma's apartment. The agents did a sweep, cleared the building, and escorted her upstairs. Her apartment was exactly as she'd left it. Empty coffee mug in the sink, jacket on the back of the chair. She stood in the doorway, taking it in. Hayes touched her shoulder. "We'll keep a detail on you for another week. After that, you should be clear." "What about Frost?" "We'll find him, and when we do, he'll join the rest of them." Emma nodded. Hayes left. The door closed. Emma walked to the window and looked out at the city. The sun was setting, casting everything in orange and gold. She'd fought. She'd won. But she knew the cost. The people she'd trusted who'd turned on her. The night she'd spent looking over her shoulder. The weight of knowing that standing up had put everyone she cared about in danger. It wasn't a clean victory, but it was victory nonetheless. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She stared at it for a long moment. Then she answered. "Blake?" Silence. Then a voice. Familiar. Calm. Judge Ronald Pemberton. "Captain Blake, I wanted to call you personally." Emma's grip tightened on the phone. "Why?" "Because I owe you an apology. A real one. Not the one I gave in court to save my career." He paused. "You were right. About everything. I spent 20 years thinking I was administering justice, but I was just protecting a system that served people like Brendan Driscoll. You showed me that, and I'm grateful." Emma didn't know what to say. "I'm stepping down from the bench," Pemberton continued, "effective immediately. It's time." "You don't have to—" "Yes, I do. Because if I don't, I'm just another piece of the machine, and I'm tired of being part of the problem." The line went quiet. "Thank you, Captain," Pemberton said softly, "for reminding me what integrity looks like." He hung up. Emma set the phone down and sank onto the couch. She didn't cry, she didn't feel relief, she just felt empty, like she'd been carrying a weight for so long that she didn't know how to exist without it. Her phone buzzed one more time, a text from Nash. "Turn on the news." She grabbed the remote. The screen showed a live feed. A podium outside a government building. A woman stepping up to the microphone. The caption read, "State Attorney General announces task force to investigate corruption in Harbor City." The AG spoke. "Today, we are launching a comprehensive investigation into systemic corruption within city government, law enforcement, and the judicial system. This investigation will be led by a special task force with full subpoena power and prosecutorial authority. We will root out every individual who has abused their position for personal gain, and we will hold them accountable." The camera panned to the side. Standing behind the AG was Agent Hayes, and beside her, wearing a suit and looking uncomfortable but determined, was Rachel Ortiz. Emma felt tears sting her eyes. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. The phone rang again. This time she knew the number. General William Carver, the man who'd walked into that courtroom and changed everything. She answered. "Sir, Captain Blake, I wanted to check in, see how you're holding up." "I'm all right. I heard about Ashford. Hell of a takedown. It wasn't just me. It never is, but you were the one who stood when no one else would. That takes something most people don't have." Emma swallowed hard. "Thank you, sir. I'm putting you in for a commendation, Civilian Medal of Honor. You've earned it. I don't need— It's not about need, it's about setting the record straight. You saved lives, you exposed corruption, you fought when you had every reason to walk away. That deserves recognition." Emma didn't respond. Take care of yourself, Captain, and if you ever need anything, you call me. Understood? Yes, sir. He hung up. Emma sat in the quiet apartment, the weight of everything finally settling. She'd gone into that courtroom to help one man, and she'd ended up taking down an empire. The next morning, Emma returned to Mercy Grove Medical Center. She walked through the front doors in her scrubs, ID badge clipped to her pocket. A few staff members stared. A couple nodded. Most just went about their work. Emma reported to the charge nurse's station. Diane looked up, her face unreadable. Blake, you're back. I am. Diane slid a chart across the desk. Trauma Bay 3. Motorcycle accident. Needs an IV and vitals. Emma took the chart. Got it. She walked to the trauma bay, pulled the curtain, and got to work. The patient was young, early 20s, scraped up but stable. Emma started the IV, checked his blood pressure, asked the standard questions. He stared at her. You're the nurse from the news. Emma didn't look up. I'm a nurse, that's all. You took down that councilman. I testified. Other people did the rest. The kid smiled, wincing at the split in his lip. My mom said you're a hero. Emma finished taping down the IV line. Your mom sounds nice. She left the bay before he could say anything else. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Patients came and went. Emma moved through the familiar rhythms, triage, treatment, charting, repeat. By the end of the day, her feet ached and her back hurt, and she smelled like antiseptic. It felt normal. It felt right. As she clocked out, Dr. Cross appeared in the hallway. Emma, a word? She followed him to his office. He closed the door and gestured to a chair. I owe you an apology, he said. I should have stood up for you when administration tried to push you out. I didn't. That was wrong. Emma sat. You were trying to protect the hospital. I was trying to protect myself. There's a difference. He leaned back in his chair. For what it's worth, you did something I couldn't. You stood up when it mattered, and you paid a price for it. I'd do it again. I know. That's what makes you dangerous. He smiled faintly. In the best way. Emma stood. Is that all? One more thing. The board wants to issue a formal apology. Public statement. Acknowledge how they handled the situation was wrong. I don't need that. It's not about what you need. It's about setting the standard, making sure the next person who speaks up doesn't get treated the way you were. Emma considered that. All right. She left his office and walked out to the parking lot. The sun was low on the horizon. The air was cool. Traffic hummed in the distance. She got in her car, started the engine, and sat for a moment. Her phone buzzed. A voicemail from a number she didn't recognize. She played it. A man's voice. Rough. Exhausted. Captain Blake, this is Caleb Frost. Emma's blood froze. I'm done running. I'm turning myself in tomorrow morning. Federal building, 10 a.m. I'll give them everything. Every name, every transaction, everything Ashford and Driscoll did. He paused. I just wanted you to know you won. I've spent my whole life working for people like them, and you beat all of us without firing a shot. That's something. The voicemail ended. Emma stared at the phone. Then she forwarded the message to Hayes and started driving. The next morning, Caleb Frost walked into the FBI field office with his hands up. He was arrested, processed, and placed in a holding cell. By noon, he'd given a full confession. By evening, 3 more warrants had been issued. The dominoes kept falling. Emma watched the news from her apartment. The headlines blurred together. Harbor City corruption scandal widens, more arrests expected. Former Councilman Driscoll faces federal trial in January. Victor Ashford denied bail, called flight risk. She turned off the TV. Her phone rang. Maya Torres. Captain Blake, I'm writing a follow-up piece. Wanted to get your thoughts on everything that's happened, and I don't have much to say. People want to hear from you. You're the reason this is all coming to light. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then tell them this. The system only works if people believe in it enough to fight for it. Not from the outside. From within. You don't have to be a soldier or an agent or a lawyer. You just have to be willing to stand when everyone else sits down. Maya was silent. Then, can I quote you on that? Yeah. Emma hung up. She stood and walked to the window. The city stretched out before her, lights beginning to flicker on as dusk settled. Somewhere out there, Lucas was helping other veterans find their way back. Rachel was investigating cases no one else would touch. Melissa was starting over, finally free. And Emma was just a nurse again, exactly where she wanted to be. Her phone buzzed one last time, a text from an unknown number. She almost deleted it, but something made her open it. You should have stayed out of this. Now you'll pay. Below the text was a photo. Emma's apartment, taken from across the street. Through her window, taken 5 minutes ago. She spun toward the window and saw the red dot of a laser sight on her chest. Emma dropped. The window exploded in a shower of glass. The round punched through where her chest had been a second earlier and buried itself in the far wall. She hit the floor hard, scrambled on hands and knees toward the hallway. Another shot cracked. The lamp on the side table disintegrated. Emma grabbed her phone, crawling fast. She made it to the bathroom, slammed the door, locked it. Not that it would matter. She dialed Hayes. 1 ring, 2. Blake? Sniper. My apartment. Now. I'm 5 minutes out. Stay down. Emma killed the call and looked around. Small window above the toilet. Too high. No other exit. She was trapped. Outside, footsteps in the stairwell. Heavy. Multiple people. They were coming in. Emma pulled open the cabinet under the sink. Cleaning supplies. A plunger. Nothing useful. The footsteps stopped outside her apartment door. A voice. Male. Calm. Captain Blake, we can do this easy or hard. Your choice. Emma didn't respond. She grabbed the plunger, broke off the wooden handle against the edge of the tub. It splintered into a jagged point. The apartment door crashed open, bootsteps in the living room, the hallway. Emma positioned herself behind the bathroom door, makeshift weapon raised. The doorknob rattled. Then a shoulder slammed into it. The frame cracked, but held. Another impact. The lock gave. The door swung inward. A man stepped through, tactical vest, rifle raised. Emma drove the splintered handle into his neck just below the vest. He gurgled, dropped the rifle, clutched at his throat. She grabbed the rifle as he fell, swung it up. A second man appeared in the doorway. She squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked. The round caught him in the shoulder. He spun backward. Emma moved, out of the bathroom, over the first man who was choking on his own blood, into the hallway. A third man stood in her living room, weapon coming up. She was faster. 2 shots, center mass. He went down. Sirens screamed outside. Close now. Emma swept the apartment. No more targets. She moved to the window, careful to stay out of the sniper's line, and looked down. The street was chaos. Police cars. FBI vehicles. Agents pouring out. Weapons drawn. And on the roof across the street, movement. The sniper, repositioning. Emma raised the rifle, sighted through the scope. The distance was maybe 80 yards. Wind, minimal. She exhaled, squeezed. The rifle barked. Across the street, the sniper jerked, tumbled backward out of sight. Emma lowered the weapon, legs shaking. The door to her apartment burst open again. Agents flooded in, shouting commands. Hayes was with them. She saw Emma standing there, rifle in hand, 3 bodies on the floor. Clear, Hayes shouted. Then to Emma, You hit? Emma shook her head, couldn't speak. Hayes took the rifle from her hands. It's over. You're safe. Emma sank against the wall. Paramedics arrived. They checked her for injuries, minor cuts from the glass, bruised ribs from hitting the floor. Nothing serious. One of the bodies was still alive, the man she'd shot in the shoulder. Paramedics worked on him while agents cuffed his hands. Hayes crouched beside Emma. The sniper's down. Wounded but stable. We've got him in custody. Who sent them? We don't know yet, but we'll find out. Emma looked at the carnage in her apartment. Blood on the floor. Bullet holes in the walls. Her life shattered again. I can't keep doing this. Hayes squeezed her shoulder. You won't have to. They took Emma to the field office. Sat her in a conference room with coffee she didn't drink and a blanket she didn't need. An hour later, Hayes came back. The shooter you wounded is talking. Says he was hired through an encrypted contract. Payment in cryptocurrency. Instructions sent anonymously. Ashford. We're looking into it, but he's in federal custody. No phone access. No internet. If he ordered this, he did it before we arrested him. Emma closed her eyes. So there's someone else. Or he set it in motion as a contingency. Either way, we're going to find out. Hayes' phone rang. She answered, listened, her face going hard. Bring him in. She hung up. We just arrested Ashford's chief of staff. Guy named Martin Kessler. He's been running Ashford's operations while Ashford's been locked up. We found evidence he hired the hit team. Is he talking? Not yet, but he will. Emma stood. I want to see him. Emma, I want to see him. Hayes studied her, then nodded. Come on. They walked through the building to an interrogation room. Through the one-way glass, Emma saw him. Martin Kessler. Mid-50s, thinning hair, expensive watch. He sat with his arms crossed, face blank. Hayes opened the door. "Mr. Kessler, this is Captain Emma Blake." Kessler looked at her. No recognition. No reaction. Emma walked in and sat down across from him. "You tried to have me killed tonight." "I don't know what you're talking about. 3 men broke into my apartment. 1's dead. 2 are in custody. They're giving you up right now." Kessler's jaw tightened. "I want my lawyer." "You'll get one. But first, I need to know why." "I have nothing to say to you." Emma leaned forward. "Victor Ashford is going to prison for the rest of his life. Brendan Driscoll is finished. Caleb Frost is cooperating. You're the last domino. And when you fall, this is over. So why drag it out?" Kessler's eyes flickered. "You don't understand how this works." "Then explain it to me." He laughed, cold, bitter. "You think Ashford was the top? You think he was running everything? He was just a glorified accountant. The real power in this city, the people who actually control things, they're still out there. And they don't forgive." Emma's pulse quickened. "Who are they?" "I'm not suicidal." "You're already facing life in prison. What's the difference?" "The difference is my family. I cooperate. They die. That's how it works." He met her eyes. "So, no, I'm not talking, and neither will anyone else. Because the people at the top, they're ghosts. You'll never touch them." Hayes stepped in. "We're done here." She led Emma out. In the hallway, Emma turned. "He's scared." "Of who?" "I don't know, but it's someone bigger than Ashford." Hayes pulled out her phone. "I'm escalating this. Federal task force, full resources. We're going to find whoever's running this operation." "How long will that take?" Hayes didn't answer. Emma knew what that meant. Months. Maybe years. And in the meantime, she'd be looking over her shoulder. The next morning, Emma was moved to a secure location outside the city. A cabin in the mountains. Isolated. Guarded. She spent the first day staring at trees and trying not to think. On the second day, Nash called. "I heard about the hit. You all right?" "Define all right." "Stupid question. Sorry." He paused. "Listen, I've been talking to some people. Old contacts, intelligence community, and I might have a lead on who's above Ashford." Emma sat up. "Who?" "A network. Not a person. A group of investors and power brokers who've been manipulating city politics for decades. They funnel money through legitimate businesses, control elections, place people in key positions. Ashford was just one node. How do we take them down?" "We don't. They're too insulated, too protected. But we can expose them. Make it public. Force investigations." "You have proof?" "Some. Financial records, shell companies. But it's not enough for arrests. Just enough to start asking questions." Emma's mind raced. "Send it to Maya Torres. Let her publish it." "You sure? These people will come after her." "They're already coming after all of us. At least this way the truth gets out." Nash was quiet. Then, "All right, I'll send it tonight." He hung up. Emma walked to the window. The mountains stretched out, silent and still. She thought about Lucas, about Rachel, about Melissa, about every person who'd been crushed by the machine and never got back up. She picked up her phone and called Lucas. He answered on the first ring. "Emma? You okay? I heard." "I'm fine. How are you?" "Good. Really good, actually. I've been working with a group of vets, talking them through PTSD, helping them find resources. It feels right, you know?" Emma smiled. "I'm glad. You sound tired." "I am, but I'm not done yet." "What do you need?" "Just wanted to hear your voice, remind myself why this matters." Lucas's voice softened. "It matters because you made me believe I was worth saving, and now I'm doing the same for other people. That's not nothing, Emma. That's everything." Her throat tightened. "Thanks." She hung up before he could hear her voice break. That night, Maya Torres published the article, "The Architects: How a Shadow Network Has Controlled Harbor City for 30 Years. It named names, showed connections, laid out the financial trails that led from legitimate businesses to offshore accounts to political campaigns. It didn't have enough for criminal charges, but it had enough to destroy reputations. By morning, the state attorney general had announced an expanded investigation. The FBI opened a public corruption task force. 2 sitting judges recused themselves from cases. A state senator resigned. The machine was eating itself. Emma watched the news from the cabin. Hayes sat beside her. "You know they're going to retaliate. Let them try." "Emma, I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not running. If they want me, they can come find me." Hayes looked at her for a long moment. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most reckless. Maybe both. 3 days later, Emma returned to Harbor City. Hayes tried to stop her. The task force argued it was too dangerous. Nash called her insane. She went anyway. She walked into Mercy Grove Medical Center on a Tuesday morning, clocked in, and went to work. The staff stared, whispered, but no one said anything to her face. Emma didn't care. She had patients to see. At lunch, she sat in the break room alone. Dr. Cross came in, poured coffee, and sat down across from her. "You've got guts. I'll give you that." Emma shrugged. "I've got a job. Same as everyone else. Half the city wants you dead. The other half wants to give you a medal." "I don't want either." Cross smiled faintly. "What do you want?" Emma thought about it. "To do my job. Help people. Go home at the end of the day." "That's it?" "That's enough." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I guess it is." That afternoon, Emma was called to the ER for a trauma case. Gunshot wound. Young male. Critical. She ran. In the trauma bay, the team was already working. Blood everywhere. The patient's pressure was dropping. The surgeon barked orders. Emma grabbed supplies, started a second IV line, pushed fluids. "We're losing him," someone shouted. The surgeon called for the defibrillator. Emma charged it, handed over the paddles. "Clear!" The patient's body arced. The monitor beeped erratically, then steadied. They worked for 20 minutes. Emma moved on instinct. No thought, just muscle memory and training. When the patient finally stabilized, the surgeon stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Nice work, Blake." Emma nodded, stripped off her gloves, and walked out. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall, breathing hard. This was what mattered. Not headlines, not trials, not justice, just the fight to keep people alive. A week later, Emma was subpoenaed to testify at Brendan Driscoll's trial. She walked into the courtroom in a simple gray suit. No medal this time, just herself. The gallery was packed. Media, protesters, supporters. Emma took the stand. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Angela Reeves, approached. "Captain Blake, can you describe your first encounter with the defendant?" Emma told the story. The courtroom, Lucas, the medal, Driscoll's arrogance. "And what happened after that?" Emma detailed everything. The harassment, the threats, the assault on Rachel, the frame job. Driscoll's lawyer objected repeatedly. The judge overruled him every time. When Emma was finished, Reeves sat down. Driscoll's lawyer stood. He was older, gray-haired, with the kind of smug confidence that came from winning too many cases. "Captain Blake, isn't it true that you have a personal vendetta against my client?" "No." "You've made very serious accusations. Accusations that have destroyed his career and his reputation." "I've told the truth." "If that destroyed his career, that's on him." The lawyer's eyes narrowed. "You claim to be a hero, a decorated veteran. But isn't it true that you were dishonorably discharged from the Army?" The courtroom erupted. Emma didn't flinch. "No, that's a lie." The lawyer pulled out a document. "Your Honor, I have here a discharge record showing—" "Objection!" Reeves was on her feet. "That document is fabricated. We've already submitted Captain Blake's official military records, which show an honorable discharge." The judge leaned forward. "Counselor, if you're presenting falsified evidence, you're looking at contempt charges." The lawyer faltered. I was provided this by my client." Every eye turned to Driscoll. He'd gone pale. The judge's voice was ice. "Mr. Driscoll, did you fabricate a military record to discredit a witness?" Driscoll's lawyer whispered frantically in his ear. "I'm waiting for an answer." Driscoll stood. "Your Honor, Sit down." The judge's gavel cracked. "The jury will disregard the defense's line of questioning. Counselor, you're fined $10,000 for presenting false evidence. And Mr. Driscoll, you've just added witness tampering to your charges." Emma stepped down from the stand. As she walked past Driscoll, he hissed, "You'll regret this." She stopped, turned. "I already do, but I'd do it again." She left the courtroom. Outside, reporters mobbed her. She pushed through without comment. Rachel was waiting by the courthouse steps. She'd testified the day before. "You okay?" Emma nodded. "You?" "Better now." Rachel smiled. Driscoll's lawyer just committed career suicide in there. That was beautiful. It was necessary. They stood together, watching the crowd. "What happens after this?" Rachel asked. "We go back to our lives, do our jobs, try to be normal." Rachel laughed. "We're never going to be normal." "No, but we can try." The trial lasted 2 more weeks. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. Brendan Driscoll was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Colin Driscoll got 15. Victor Ashford got life without parole. Martin Kessler took a plea deal and got 12 years in exchange for testimony. Judge Pemberton was formally censured and disbarred. Richard Voss lost his law license and was sentenced to 5 years for obstruction. The dominoes had fallen. Emma watched the sentencing on TV from her apartment. Her new apartment. Clean. Safe. No bullet holes. When the verdict came down, she didn't cheer, didn't celebrate. She just turned off the TV and sat in the quiet. It was over. A month later, Emma received a letter. It was from Melissa Vance. Dear Captain Blake, I wanted to write and say thank you, not just for helping me finally get justice, but for showing me that it was possible to fight back. I spent 3 years thinking I was broken, that what happened to me defined who I was. But watching you stand up in that courtroom, watching you refuse to back down no matter what they threw at you, it changed something in me. I'm back in school now, studying law. I want to help other survivors the way you helped me. I want to be the person who stands between them and the people who think they're untouchable. You saved my life, not by testifying, but by reminding me that I still had one worth living. Thank you, Melissa. Emma read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. That night she got a call from General Carver. Captain Blake, I have news. Sir? The Department of Defense is awarding you the Civilian Medal of Honor. Ceremonies in 2 months, Washington, D.C. Emma closed her eyes. I don't need... It's not about what you need. It's about what you represent. Courage, integrity, standing up when it would have been easier to walk away. People need to see that. I'm just a nurse. You're a hell of a lot more than that. And whether you like it or not, you're a symbol now. So you can either accept it and use it to inspire people, or you can fight it and waste the opportunity. Emma was quiet. Your choice, Captain. Yes, sir. I'll be there. The ceremony was held in the East Room of a government building, attended by military brass, politicians, and press. Emma stood on the stage in her dress uniform, the first time she'd worn it in years. The medal from that day in court was pinned to her chest. The Secretary of Defense read the citation. For extraordinary courage and selfless service in the face of corruption and violence. Captain Emma Blake exemplified the highest values of military service by defending the vulnerable, exposing systemic injustice, and placing the welfare of others above her own safety. Her actions serve as a reminder that true heroism is not defined by rank or position, but by the willingness to stand when others will not. He placed the medal around her neck. The room erupted in applause. Emma stood there, feeling the weight of it. Not the medal, the responsibility. When the ceremony ended, people lined up to shake her hand. She smiled, thanked them, moved through it mechanically. Outside, Nash was waiting. How do you feel? Tired. He laughed. Yeah, I bet. He looked at her. What's next? Emma thought about it. I'm starting a program for veterans who are struggling. Legal advocacy, mental health support, job placement, everything Lucas needed and couldn't find. You're going to run it? I'm going to help. The VA's backing it. Some private donors, too. We're calling it the Iron Widow Initiative. Nash grinned. That's perfect. Emma shrugged. It's what I should have been doing all along. You've been a little busy saving the world. I didn't save anything. I just refused to let them bury the truth. Nash put a hand on her shoulder. That's the same thing. Emma returned to Harbor City the next day. She walked into Mercy Grove Medical Center and clocked in. The staff had seen the ceremony on the news. A few congratulated her. Most just went about their work. Emma was fine with that. She spent the day treating patients. A kid with a broken arm, an elderly man with chest pain, a woman in labor. Normal, routine, necessary. At the end of her shift, she walked out to the parking lot. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Her phone buzzed, a text from Lucas. First meeting of the new support group tonight. 12 vets showed up. We're making a difference. Emma smiled and typed back. Proud of you. Another text. Rachel. Closed my first case as lead detective. Trafficking ring, 7 arrests. Feels good, Emma replied. You earned it. She got in her car and sat for a moment looking at the hospital. She'd started this fight alone. Now she wasn't alone anymore. People were standing up, speaking out, fighting back. And it had started with one nurse who refused to sit down when a judge told her to. Emma started the engine and drove home. Her apartment was quiet. She made dinner. ate in front of the window, watching the city lights flicker on. Her phone rang. Hayes. Blake, we got him. Got who? The last one, the Shadow Network's banker. We traced the cryptocurrency payments back to a hedge fund manager, a guy named Gregory Thorne. He's been moving money for the network for 15 years. We arrested him this morning. Emma felt something release in her chest. Is it over? This part is. There's always going to be someone else. Another corrupt official, another dirty cop. But the network that controlled this city, that's done. You broke it. We broke it. Hayes was quiet. Then, yeah, we did. They hung up. Emma set the phone down and stood at the window. The city stretched out before her. Flawed, messy, complicated, but fighting, just like her. 6 months later, Emma stood in a conference room at the VA hospital, looking at a room full of veterans. Some were young, some were old, all were struggling. Lucas stood beside her. Thanks for coming, Emma said. I know it's not easy to ask for help. I know it feels like weakness, but it's not. It's the bravest thing you can do. She paused, looking at their faces. I've been where you are. I felt broken, lost, like the world didn't care. But I learned something. The system doesn't fix itself, and it doesn't fix us. We fix each other. By standing together, by refusing to give up, by fighting for the person next to us, even when we can't fight for ourselves. One of the veterans, a woman in her 30s, raised her hand. What if we've already lost everything? Emma met her eyes. Then you've got nothing left to lose, and that makes you dangerous, in the best way. The room was silent. Then Lucas spoke. I tried to kill myself 2 years ago. I didn't think I had anything worth living for. But Captain Blake showed me I was wrong. She didn't fix me. She just reminded me I was still here, still fighting, and that mattered. He looked at Emma. She saved my life. Not by pulling me out of a war zone, but by refusing to let me give up. Tears stung Emma's eyes. She blinked them back. We're going to build something here, she said. A place where veterans aren't just numbers. Where you're seen, heard, supported. It won't be perfect, but it'll be ours. The room erupted in applause. After the meeting, Emma walked out to the parking lot. The sky was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. Rachel was waiting by her car. She'd come to the meeting as a guest speaker, talking about second chances. You did good in there, Rachel said. So did you. They stood together, watching the veterans file out, talking, laughing, connected. You think it'll last? Rachel asked. It'll last as long as we keep fighting for it. Rachel smiled. Then I guess we better not stop. Emma nodded. They got in their cars and drove away. Emma went home, showered, changed into comfortable clothes. She made tea and sat on her couch, looking at the medal hanging on the wall. The bronze star, the one she'd worn into that courtroom. It had cost her everything, and it had given her everything back. Her phone buzzed, a text from Maya Torres. Just won a journalism award for the Harbor City investigation. Thank you for trusting me with the story, Emma typed back. You earned it. Keep fighting. She set the phone down and closed her eyes. She thought about that day in court, Judge Pemberton telling her to remove her medal. The moment she'd said no. She thought about everything that had come after, the violence, the fear, the nights she'd wondered if she'd made a mistake. And she thought about Lucas, standing in front of a room full of veterans telling them they mattered, about Rachel, closing cases and protecting people who couldn't protect themselves, about Melissa, going back to school and reclaiming her life, about the system that had tried to crush all of them and failed. Emma opened her eyes. She wasn't a hero. She was just someone who'd refused to back down. And sometimes that was enough. She stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the city. Harbor City. Flawed, corrupt, broken in 1,000 ways. But fighting. Always fighting. Just like her. And as long as there were people willing to stand when everyone else sat down, there was hope. Emma Blake had learned that the hard way. Now, she was going to spend the rest of her life making sure no one else had to learn it alone. She turned away from the window, picked up her keys, and headed out. There was work to do. And she'd never been afraid of work. The quiet nurse who'd walked into that courtroom had changed the world. Not by being perfect, not by being fearless, but by refusing to let the powerful silence the powerless. And that was a legacy worth fighting for, every single day.